Hello there, Earthling. Welcome back to Podcastage. Today I am reviewing the Hyperx Quadcast 2, which is what you're listening to. This microphone costs about $150. I did buy it with my own money. If you want to check it out, I'll throw some links in the description down below. All of my recording settings will be listed in the description, as well as the doobly-doo. Now let's talk about what's in the box. What a shocker, you get the microphone, a desktop stand that's already installed, a 3-meter USB-C to USB-C cable, a USB-C to USB-A adapter, and you'll get some documentation. Alright, then as far as the build quality, I would say this microphone feels fine. It has an all-plastic body and build, but it doesn't feel like terrible or super cheap plastic. It has a plastic shock mount, and you can remove the microphone from that mount. The mount has 5/8 and 3/8 inch threading. On the front, you have a very multi-purpose dial, which we'll discuss shortly. It does have a little bit of wobble to it. On the top, you have a mute button, which is surrounded by an indicator light. On the back, you have a USB-C port to connect this to your device, and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which offers computer playback audio as well as zero latency monitoring. And whether you care or not, this mic is made in China. I'm not going to read the specs to you, but I have what I could find up on screen and listed in the description in case you want to take a closer look. Next, let's talk about the operation of this thing. The dial on the front of this is going to adjust the microphone's gain, the headphone volume, the headphone mix, and your microphone's polar pattern. Pressing the button quickly is going to scroll between the modes. Press it once, you go to gain, then headphone volume, and then your mix between computer playback and zero latency monitoring. But if you press and hold this button, it's going to change the polar pattern of the microphone before the 4 that are available, and the light on top of the microphone represents the polar pattern that you're on, whether it's cardioid, omnidirectional, stereo, or figure 8. And lastly, on the top of the microphone, it is a capacitive mute button. You touch it to mute, touch it again to unmute. Now on the cardioid pattern, moving around to 90 degrees to show you the off-axis rejection and coloration. Continuing around to 180 degrees, this is the rear of the microphone. Continuing around to the second 90-degree angle, there we are, and then rotating and ending at the front of the mic. Starting on the most common polar pattern, here I am about 6 inches off of the Hyperx Quadcast 2 on the cardioid polar pattern, which picks up audio in the front. This is the cardioid pattern. Now I am on the omnidirectional pattern at the exact same distance with the exact same gain setting. You should hear a lot more room tone coming into the recording. It will sound a bit more reverberant. This picks up audio all the way around. This is the omnidirectional pattern. Now I'm on the stereo pattern, which means as I move to the left, you should hear me in the left speaker or headphone. Going to the right, you should hear me in the right. This is going to be a pattern that's great for music if you want to mimic what a human is kind of hearing. Also going to be the pattern if you do ASMR. And lastly, we have the figure 8 pattern. This picks up audio in the front and in the rear, but it is not a stereo signal. This is going to be the pattern you would want to use if you are sitting across from somebody and you want to capture both of your voices at the same time, or if you need a tremendous amount of rejection from the sides. Now let's see how this thing handles plosive rejection. Please provide pizza pronto. Please provide pizza pronto. Please provide prepared pizza pronto. Pals. Now I'm right on top of the microphone to exaggerate the proximity effect as well as all the mouth clicks, and here's how it's sounding. Now about 6 inches off of the microphone, and here's how it sounds. Now about 1 foot away from the Quadcast 2, about 2 feet away from the Quadcast 2, and about 4 feet away from the Hyperx Quadcast 2. Now I'm typing on a Gateron Blue Switch keyboard, and here's how much of that it picks up. And for the gamers, here are the sad W and spacebar keys. Now here is how the Hyperx Quadcast 2 sounds about 6 inches away from my mouth in a relatively well-treated room. And now here is how the microphone sounds about 6 inches from my mouth in a completely untreated room. I am also incredibly annoying, so I am going to tap on the microphone to see if there are any kind of resonant frequencies. Now I have the microphone on the provided desktop stand. I will place this directly on the desk in front of me, I would say about 12 inches from my mouth. Here's how it sounds in this kind of configuration. If I bump my desk, here's how much of that it picks up. And now with the microphone on a boom arm. And if I type on a mechanical keyboard with the mic on my desk, here's how it sounds on the boom arm. Now let's hear how the mute function is implemented on this mic. There you go. That is the mute button and the implementation for this microphone. I really do not like ASMR, but because it has a stereo pattern, I need to include a test to see if this is successful at being an ASMR microphone. This should be enough of a sample because I am creeping myself out and I feel incredibly uncomfortable talking this quietly and moving around a microphone. This is so weird. Does it ASMR? This is going to take a while, so let's just start with the comparison against a bunch of other USB mics. Starting on the Hyperx Quadcast 2, about 6 inches off, gain on the mic set at 10 o'clock, input level at 33%. Let's hear the first microphone. First up, I'm on the Samson Go Mic, about 6 inches off on the Cardioid pattern. My input level is set at 20%, recording 16-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs between $20 and $50. Let's go back and do a lot more. Back on the Hyperx Quadcast 2 on the Cardioid polar pattern, here's how it sounds. Let's hear the next one. Next, we're on another HyperX microphone, the Solocast. I'm about 6 inches off of this. Input level set at 69.5%. Noise, 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone also costs about $60. And here is how it sounds compared to its much bigger brother. Here's the Quadcast 2. I've run out of things to say already. Let's go to another microphone. Now I'm on the original Hyperx Quadcast, about 6 inches off on the Cardioid pattern. Gain on the microphone around 40 to 50%. Input level 53%. 16-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone now goes for about $100. And here's how it sounds compared to the V2. Hey, we're back on the Hyperx Quadcast 2. Nothing has changed. Check the lower third. Let's go to another microphone. Next, I'm on the classic blue Yeti, about 6 inches off on the Cardioid pattern. Gain on the microphone set at 12 o'clock. Input level set at 36%, recording 16-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone now goes for about $130. Huh? But here is the oldish Yeti, and let's move on. All right, we are on the Hyperx Quadcast 2 again. To clear out your ear canals, here's how it sounds. Let's do some more. Now I'm on the Sennheiser Profile USB, about 6 inches off. Gain on the microphone is set at about 1 o'clock. Input level set at 100%, recording 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs about $130, and here is how it sounds compared to the Quadcast 2. Let's do some more. Thank goodness we're over the hump. This is the Quadcast 2 palette cleanser. Wop, bop, 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 boop, bop, boop. That's what happens when my brain farts. Now I'm on the Audio Technica AT2020 USB-X, catchy name, about 6 inches off, input level 13%, 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs around $130, and here is how this sounds compared to the Quadcast. Let's do a whole bunch more comparisons. Back on the Quadcast 2, thank goodness we're over the hump, and let's go to another microphone. Hello, welcome to the middle of the video. Now I am on the Elgato Wave 3, about 6 inches off, input level set at 8.3%. All of the processing is disengaged, recording 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs about $150, and here's how it sounds compared to the Hyperx. Let's do some more. I am at a complete loss of what to say on the Quadcast 2, which is what you're hearing. Let's hear another microphone. All right, now I am on the Rode NT USB Plus, about 6 inches off. I assure you I'm talking into the front. I just moved the pop filter. Input level set at 42%. 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs about $170, and here's how it sounds compared to the Quadcast 2. Let's do 2 more comparisons. We have 3 more to go. This is the Quadcast 2. Talk, 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 yap, yap, yap. Let's go on. Next, I am on the Logitech Blue Yeti X, about 6 inches off on the Cardioid pattern. Input gain at 29, input level at 43%, 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs about $170, and here's how it sounds compared to what I would call its direct competition. Also, all of the processing for this mic is shut off. Here's your penultimate palate cleanser on the Quadcast 2. Nothing has changed. Let's go to the second to last microphone. Right now, I am on the Shure SM57, one of the most popular microphones ever. 6 inches off, running directly into the Focusrite 18i20 4th gen. Input gain is set at 53 decibels, 24-bit 48 kilohertz. This microphone costs $100. And it's a great point of reference. Let's go and do one more comparison. And here is your last palate cleanser, which means we have one more microphone to go, which we are jumping to right now. I'm on the Neumann Neumann U87 Ai, 6 inches off, gain on the 18i20 4th gen at 31 decibels, cardioid pattern, no pad, no filters. This microphone costs $3,700, so it's a direct competitor to the Hyperx Quadcast 2. That's why I'm doing it. It's not a reference point from video to video at all. Let's go to the music test. Gets later now. I need to cope someday, somehow. But there's so much I've yet to do before I can go and watch some horror films. I just want to watch some horror movies, but these videos just take longer and longer. Ergo, I am falling behind on my horror movie watching, and it's killing me. Let's just move on to the conclusion because I'm just being a dramatic baby. I had no idea what to expect out of the Quadcast 2, but after using it for a while, I have to say, I quite liked this thing. And first up, as far as pros, I think this thing has quite a solid sound profile. The overall function of this thing is relatively easy to navigate. There's a really nice and easy way to mix between computer playback and zero latency monitoring. You are technically getting everything you need to start recording: the microphone, the cable, and a desktop mount, and it has a built-in mute button, which is pretty decently implemented. But then we have the cons of this thing, and number one for me is there was a little bit of ringing if you tap on the microphone. It's not the worst, but I do need to point that out. Also, I find the polar pattern selection function on microphone to be a little bit confusing, and I imagine a lot of people who do not use the app are going to end up being on the wrong polar pattern because the only indication is the light on the top of this thing as I scratch it. And lastly, the mute function. This is a bit nitpicky, but it doesn't have a fade in or out, so it does have a click if you mute yourself in the middle of a sentence, but that's very, very nitpicky. And now, what are my overall thoughts and opinions of the Hyperx Quadcast 2? As far as the overall sound, I would classify this as a slightly bright microphone. You can get a relatively robust bass and low mid section. Then the mids are nice and clear and open. They don't sound overly scooped, but they also don't sound too forward and congested. And then you get this nice, clear and open treble region, but it doesn't come across overboosted. I need to point out this is a gaming microphone, so I'm not going to overanalyze it, but I was shocked at how well it worked for all of the music tests. On the electric guitar, the acoustic guitar, and for singing, I had no issues. I would be more than happy to use this for gaming, as well as recording some music if I needed to. And for spoken word, which is what this is designed for, I think it works quite well and sounds quite good for a USB microphone. It offers a good amount of body, but it's not overly boomy. The mids are clear and open and don't sound congested. And then you get this clear treble region, but it's not overboosted. It doesn't sound artificial, and it doesn't sound overly harsh. For this application, I think it sounds great. And to wrap up, would I recommend the Hyperx Quadcast 2? Yeah. For a USB microphone, tonally, I quite like this thing, and I'm ranking it up there amongst the Rode NT USB Plus and the AT2020 X-USB, both of which I think sound great. Choosing between those three really comes down to the functionality. As I mentioned, the functionality and navigation of this thing is relatively straightforward. The only potential issue I see is the polar pattern selection for those who aren't using an app on their computer, so Mac users, or somebody who doesn't want to install the HyperX software. But choosing between those three microphones does come down to function. If I just needed a cardioid USB mic and didn't want processing, I'd probably look towards the AT2020 and save some money. If I just needed cardioid and wanted a little bit of processing, I'd go Rode NT USB Plus. But if I was looking for a USB microphone that offered multiple polar patterns like cardioid, stereo, omnidirectional, and figure eight, and I didn't care about processing, then this would be one of the front runners for me because tonally, I think it sounds great.